A lot of players have their issues with LIV Golf, but Nick Faldo's reaction is on another level. He's been saying golf as we know it is done, calling LIV a total sellout where tradition gets tossed aside for cash. He's even been calling out players for joining it. But let's be real, that's just the normal Faldo. Who can forget all the feuds he's had with other players over the years? Faldo hasn't held back when it comes to LIV Golf, the Saudi-backed tour shaking up the sport. He's openly called it meaningless and slammed players for jumping ship to join it. That hasn't exactly sat well with LIV supporters or some of the players he's criticized. But for Faldo, it's bigger than just a new tour. He's worried about how the focus on money, especially with LIV's massive prize purses, is changing the heart of professional golf. He said it feels like the game is losing its tradition, becoming more about cash than competition. Of course, this isn't the first time Faldo has found himself in the middle of controversy. He's had his share of public feuds with fellow golfers over the years. One of the most talked about was his rocky relationship with Sergio Garcia, which has flared up more than once. Faldo's sharp tongue and no-filter approach have made him a polarizing figure, both on and off the course. And let's not forget, his personal life hasn't exactly been free of drama either. Faldo's been through a few divorces, and there have been allegations of infidelity and scandal that have kept his name in the tabloids. It's clear that Faldo isn't afraid to speak his mind or live life on his own terms, but that's also made him a lightning rod for criticism and controversy. Now let us have a look at his extraordinary career. It all began in 1974 when he qualified to play in the English Amateur at Woodhall Spa. By the following year, he had already claimed two big wins, the English Amateur at Royal Lytham and the British Youths Open Amateur Championship. Despite missing out on a Walker Cup spot that year, his talent was undeniable. Later that year, he represented Great Britain in the Commonwealth Tournament in South Africa. Faldo has always been passionate about golf, so much so that he admitted it completely took over his life. "I loved school," he said, "until golf came along. After that, the only thing I cared about was getting out of the gates as fast as possible and heading to the golf course." It wasn't just Britain that noticed his talent. The United States came calling, and Faldo earned a golf scholarship to the University of Houston. But school life wasn't for him. He felt it distracted him from his game. After just 10 weeks, he left and turned professional in 1976. He joined the European Professional Golfers Association, and success followed almost immediately. By 1977, Faldo had won his first European Tour event and finished 8th on the Order of Merit. That same year, he became the youngest Ryder Cup player at the time, at just 20 years old. And he didn't just show up, he dominated. Faldo won all three of his matches, including a singles victory over Tom Watson, who had won the Open Championship just 2 months earlier. The early 1980s saw Faldo cement his place among Europe's top players. He won back-to-back Sun Alliance PGA Championships in 1980 and 1981, and topped the Order of Merit in 1983 with 5 European Tour victories. But even as he was racking up wins, Faldo realized something was missing. In the mid-1980s, Faldo made a bold decision that would define his career. He completely rebuilt his swing. With the help of coach David Leadbetter, he focused on correcting hidden flaws in his technique, even though many thought it was unnecessary. At the time, his swing was considered beautiful, but Faldo and Leadbetter knew it needed to be more consistent to win major championships. It was a gamble, and it wasn't easy. There were setbacks along the way. But in 1987, it all clicked. That May, Faldo broke a 3-year drought with a win at the Peugeot Spanish Open, a victory he described as a turning point that restored his confidence. Just 2 months later, he claimed his first major title at the Open Championship at Muirfield. His steady, flawless play in the final round, where he parred every single hole, earned him a one-shot victory. Faldo later reflected on the moment, saying, "I knew I'd do it, and I knew I had to do it." In 1989, Faldo won his second major at the Masters, showcasing brilliant putting and an incredible final round of 65 to force a playoff. He ultimately defeated Scott Hoke with a dramatic birdie putt on the second playoff hole. The following year, Faldo defended his Masters title, beating Raymond Floyd in another playoff. He became the first player since Jack Nicklaus in the mid-1960s to win back-to-back Masters titles, cementing his place in golfing history. Faldo's dominance continued in 1990. At the U.S. Open that year, he narrowly missed out on a playoff, finishing just 1 stroke behind the leaders. But he bounced back in spectacular fashion at the Open Championship at St. Andrews, winning by 5 shots and becoming the first golfer since Tom Watson in 1982 to win 2 majors in the same year. By the early 1990s, Faldo was at the peak of his powers. In 1992, he won his third Open Championship at Muirfield, setting a 36-hole scoring record in the process. Though he faced stiff competition from John Cook in the final round, Faldo kept his cool, sinking clutch birdies on the closing holes to secure victory. Faldo's success wasn't limited to majors. He claimed the European Tour Order of Merit again in 1992 and broke records for earnings that year. His consistency and determination were unmatched, as he famously said, "If someone's going to beat me, they'll have to work for it." In 1996, Faldo added one more unforgettable chapter to his major winning career at the Masters. Trailing Greg Norman by 6 shots heading into the final round, Faldo delivered a masterclass in steady golf, shooting 67 to Norman's 78. The win is often remembered for Norman's collapse, but Faldo's performance under pressure was just as remarkable. After the final putt, Faldo shared a heartfelt moment with Norman, offering words of comfort that have since become legendary. That Masters win marked Faldo's 6th and final major championship. While he continued to play competitively into the late 1990s, his focus gradually shifted to other pursuits. He won his final tournament, the 1997 Nissan Open in Los Angeles, at the age of 39. As Faldo entered his 40s, his appearances on the PGA and European tours became less frequent. He did, however, have some notable moments, including a top 5 finish at the 2002 U.S. Open and a strong showing at the 2003 Open Championship, where he briefly contended during the final round. By the mid-2000s, Faldo had largely stepped away from competitive golf, although he did occasionally play in events like the Open Championship and the Senior British Open. His final Open appearance came in 2015 at St. Andrews, a fitting end to a storied career. Over his career, Faldo earned over $8 million on the European Tour and more than $5 million on the PGA Tour. Not bad for someone who once just wanted to get out of school and hit the golf course. Faldo wasn't flashy, but his precision, calm under pressure, and relentless work ethic made him a force. He spent 97 weeks as the world's top-ranked golfer in the 1990s and won 29 European Tour titles, plus notable victories in tournaments like the Masters and the Open Championship. He also excelled in the Ryder Cup, playing a record 11 times and scoring 25 points for Team Europe. Known for his intense focus and perfectionism, Faldo revamped his swing in the mid-1980s, sacrificing flair for consistency. This paid off, as he often outlasted rivals who crumbled under pressure. Some of his biggest wins came after opponents' mistakes, like Greg Norman's infamous collapse at the 1996 Masters. Despite not being a big hitter, his strategic play and distance control set him apart. Off the course, Faldo wasn't known for his warmth. His commitment to the game often overshadowed his social side, but his drive inspired younger players. Golf writer Peter Dobereiner once said Faldo was obsessed with the impossible dream of technical perfection. As captain of Europe's 2008 Ryder Cup team, Faldo made bold decisions, like picking Ian Poulter as a wildcard over Darren Clarke. Though Europe lost, Poulter ended up as the team's top scorer. Love him or not, Faldo's dedication and success cemented his legacy as Britain's greatest golfer and a true legend of the game. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.